Eve's Daughters by Miriam Polster from the Gestalt Journal Press, 2001. When we move beyond the classic stereotype of heroes, we can see that many ordinary women and men are actually heroes. Although heroes of the everyday may not receive the great acclaim accorded the classic hero, the value of private heroism may be greater precisely because we see everyday heroes up close. They are so near, so intimately connected. They are family, co-workers, neighbors, and their heroism takes place in commonplace settings and in response to everyday challenges. Our images of heroes provide an inventory, if you will, of heroic characteristics. And while some of these characteristics may be basic to all heroism, others may be distinctly related to whether the hero is a woman or man. A useful definition of heroes must include both types. All heroes are motivated by a profound respect for human life. The hero profoundly believes in the value and dignity of human life. The one act that most people would agree is heroic is risking one's life to save another. The annual Carnegie Hero Fund Commission endorses this opinion by giving medals and cash awards to women and men who have saved lives. In 1990, 8 women won awards for acts ranging from saving people from assault to rescuing people from runaway automobiles or from drowning. Mythology is full of hero tales about unfortunate victims apparently doomed, if not for the intervention of the hero. Valuing life can also mean preserving the dignity with which a life is to be lived. Many of the chores that women have quietly but heroically performed over the years have been the simple services that support the dignity and welfare of the people in their care, adults as well as children. Feeding, clothing, and keeping others clean are all humble tasks, but how quickly a life deteriorates when these basic needs go untended. Many women have faced overwhelming odds on untamed and unpublicized frontiers. In the schools and clinics of our city slums, in wartime hospitals, collecting and distributing food and clothing to the homeless, all ways of preserving lives. Number 2, heroes have a strong sense of profound choice and effectiveness. The hero has a profound faith in herself as an influential force. An unhappy circumstance is not simply to be endured. Personal action is called for, and she chooses to act. She balances her own energy against the opposition and moves to make changes. One heroic woman who went beyond resignation is Betty Washington. She set herself and others to work toward their common goal. She single-handedly recruited and organized people for a Citizens Watch program to rid her Boston neighborhood of the drug dealing and crime that were threatening to take it over. This made her a publicly marked target, vulnerable to reprisal. But here is how a modern hero talks. Either you speak out and take the risk, or you die in the cesspool. The heroic woman believes and reminds others that common experience and accepted opinion can be changed, and she is willing to be the catalyst, even though she may confront opposition and criticism. Number 3, their perspective on the world is original, going beyond what other people think is possible. The hero has an original perspective that distinguishes her from others who settle for agreement and conformity, or are too beaten down to ask necessary questions. The relationship between the hero and the established order of things is fluid. She insists on her freedom to perceive within the context of things as they are, the way things could be. Doubting the inevitable rightness of unquestioned assumptions has gotten women into trouble ever since Eve. It leads to unwelcome questions, but opens a new view of old behavior, looking at voting privileges in an untraditional light. The suffragists began to question the historic restriction of the vote to white male property owners only. The trite answer that there was a classic precedent, that this policy had been good enough for the ancient Athenians, did not satisfy. In our own times, the whistleblower exposes the wrongdoing, fraud, or inefficiency in his or her workplace, where one is not supposed to rock the boat. Rocking the boat, however leaky it may be, requires an unoriginal perspective and involves risk of reprisal, slander, ridicule, demotion, and even loss of job. The fourth characteristic: they are individuals of great physical and mental courage. It is almost redundant to say that heroism requires courage, both physical and mental. Personal cost takes a back seat to getting the job done. The traditional hero often risks death or injury. In our sensationalistic age, the defiance of death has become one of the many accepted signs of heroism. In disregarding her personal welfare, the hero may appear to be courting death. This is an oversimplification. In truth, she simply considers the risk of death or injury to be less important than her purpose. Women, unconcerned with personal sacrifice, have often given years of devoted service to a cause or a person. They have persisted at unconventional efforts with little recognition or courage, willingly surrendering their personal comfort in order to pursue their goals. One example is Marie Curie, who persevered in her research in the face of disrespect and often disapproval of women scientists that characterized her time. Mother Teresa, whose lifelong devotion to the victims of poverty and disease is known throughout the world, is another compelling example. The mental courage of the hero permits her to be aware of accepted truths and yet not be restricted by them. When the child in the fairy tale says loudly that the emperor isn't wearing any clothes, that child speaks from innocence, not from courage. The heroic woman, however, knows the dangers and nevertheless asserts an unwelcome truth. But she speaks from the integrity of the clear-sighted. For her, it isn't enough merely to think the unorthodox. She chooses to espouse it publicly. And number 5, heroes are not measured by publicity. Whether a heroic act receives worldwide attention or occurs in an obscure setting with only a single witness, a heroic act is still called heroic. Public heroes are what we usually think of when we think of heroes. They have great impact and are noble examples for a number of people. Drama, awe, and admiration accompany them, and recognition is underscored by ceremonies that accord them even more fame. But the grandness of these celebrations can sometimes overshadow a far more pervasive and important factor in the lives of most people: the heroes of the intimate setting. The actions of parents, teachers, relatives, neighbors, and occasionally even strangers provide an immediacy that profoundly colors a person's life. All heroism is characterized by these 5 basic traits I have just described: respect for human life, faith in one's ability to make a difference, original perspective, physical and mental courage, and public or unpublic impact. They are not all equally evident in every heroic life or act. Sometimes one or another may dominate. These 5 characteristics do not constitute a hierarchy of heroism. They are not intended to provide a scale on which heroism can be rated. They are guidelines by which we can recognize the heroism that fills our everyday experience. They help us to appreciate heroism in its ordinary guise, unaccompanied by background music or special effects, and to find the heroic elements in our own lives.